Today, Bitcoin sinks after hitting the $60,000 mark over the weekend. Sam Bankman-Fried files an appeal to his fraud conviction, and we take a look at the Wyoming stable token, the cowboy state's push to bring blockchain payments to the masses. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Mackenzie Sigalos. Cryptocurrencies are sliding back from their weekend highs. After hitting 60K, Bitcoin dropped to the $57,000 mark by noon Eastern, Ether fell to $2,200, and Solana sank to $131. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. Sam Bankman-Fried is appealing his fraud conviction. Lawyers representing the former FTX founder, who's currently serving his 25-year prison sentence, argued in the appeal, filed Friday, for a reverse judgment and a new trial before a different judge. They called last year's trial a sentence first, verdict afterwards case and said that there was a rush to judgment following the collapse of FTX. Defense attorneys also claim that the government falsely painted a narrative of insolvency, saying that creditors will be repaid by the estate and that SBF's, quote, prescient investments in AI startup Anthropic and Solana were just illiquid and couldn't be converted to cash quick enough to meet the growing number of customer withdrawals during the FTX bank run. A jury found Bankman-Fried guilty last November of all 7 criminal counts against him relating to the November 2022 collapse of FTX and its sister hedge fund Alameda Research. Next, the CFTC warns that an explosion in election gambling will harm the public interest. The regulator said in a Saturday filing that market manipulation has occurred on prediction markets in the past and is likely to happen again. It includes an example of what it calls a spectacular manipulation attempt on prediction market Polymarket by a group of traders betting heavily on Vice President Kamala Harris. And this filing was submitted as part of a legal battle between prediction market Kalshi and the CFTC. It follows Kalshi's partial court victory earlier this month that reportedly would let the platform bet on U.S. elections. We reached out to Kalshi about this filing, and its founder, Tarek Mansour, said that the law is clear. These markets are legal, and that they're a force for good as they help combat misinformation. We also reached out to Polymarket, but didn't hear back right away. All right, let's turn to our main story. All eyes are on the Fed this week as investors wait to see if the central bank launches its first spate of rate cuts. Now, crypto investors have also been cautiously watching to see if the Federal Reserve is going to launch another initiative, a central bank digital currency. But in Wyoming, a big hub for crypto in the U.S., the state isn't waiting around for the Fed to decide. The cowboy state is in the process of developing its own stable token, hoping to bring cheaper and faster payments to retailers across the state. Crypto World's Tanaya Macheel was on the ground to talk to key stakeholders to find out how the token would work.
In 2024, crypto made its biggest mainstream leap thanks to U.S. Bitcoin and Ether ETFs. But here in the state of Wyoming, the government is already pushing into the next phase of growth for crypto: payments. The Wyoming Stable Token Commission is developing what would be a state-issued stablecoin backed by the U.S. dollar, and they say it could make financial transactions cheaper and easier for its citizens and businesses.
I think success is adoption of understanding a domestic stable coin, stable token, and having a system that's transparent, that is fully backed by our short-term treasuries, that's dollar dependent. And I think one of the big things for me is to be able to bring back onshore a lot of our debt.
ETFs make it easy for investors to safely hold a regulated asset in their portfolio that gives them exposure to Bitcoin. But crypto and its underlying blockchain technology were always intended to be used for more than just price speculation.
The hope is that stable coins, or stable tokens as we call them with our Wyoming Stable Token project, will be used in everything from moving large blocks of institutional dollars from facility to facility with very minimal intervention along the way or a few intermediaries. And in a retail context, I can go down to my local coffee shop, use Wyoming stable tokens to buy a cup of coffee, and really avoid some of those transaction fees that are imposed using the more traditional payment rails that we have now. This would be as simple as pulling up a QR code on your phone or using NFC technology to tap to pay, similar to how you would at any kind of point of sale kiosk, and using Wyoming stable tokens instead of something like a credit card system where retailers are getting a 4 to 5% hit on the transaction cost, and perhaps you as a consumer have a 1.5% transaction cost, even sometimes where the retailer will pass on that cost to you, the consumer. Those fees for using a blockchain to accomplish that transaction can be fractions of a penny no matter the size of the sale.
There's also also a community building element to it. Officials are hoping to drive real returns for Wyoming residents.
Let's say that you go to a blockchain, you have a wallet, and you say, I want to buy a Wyoming token. You're going to put $1 in through that institutional partner. That partner reaches out to the state of Wyoming and says, hey, issue a token for me. Now you'll have it. That dollar that you transfer to the state of Wyoming is now getting put into the reserve. And the reserve account is being invested again because you need to make sure that you don't leave that money sitting in a bank account. It is invested in treasuries or reverse repos. That investment in treasury and reserve repos generates interest. That interest is what the state makes by doing this, right? Because the state is not charging you to issue that token goes to you. So the state uses that interest to not only pay for the vendors that are powering that, and whatever is left, that money goes into actually the community.
The Wyoming stable token is in part a response to the reluctance of the Federal Reserve to create a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, at the federal level.
It is clear to me that digital assets are going to have a future. The United States has to address this issue. Washington's being a little bit stodgy, which is why Wyoming, being a nimble and entrepreneurial state, can make a difference.
According to Atlantic Council, there are more than 30 countries piloting a CBDC, including the digital euro, and 19 of the G20 countries are now in the advanced stages of developing one. CBDCs have been widely criticized due to concerns around privacy and surveillance on government-run blockchains. But Navis said that wouldn't apply here since Wyoming plans to use public blockchains, such as Ethereum or Solana, instead of private networks. The group hasn't specified exactly which networks it'll use, but has said it wants the coin to be available on several different platforms. Stablecoins are supposed to keep parity with an underlying asset, like the US dollar, but they can and have deviated from their peg due to a spike or drop in demand, especially with lack of liquidity, poor collateralization, regulatory crackdowns, or network congestion.
The Wyoming stable token will be backed with a 102% reserve, which will be comprised of cash, short duration treasuries, and repurchase agreements. We have in our statute a requirement to be only holding treasuries with a year or less to maturity, U.S. Treasury repurchase agreements with 30 days or less to maturity. So we've sufficiently, we believe that we've de-risked a Wyoming stable token from a depegging event with some of those actions.
The Cowboy State isn't new to pushing the boundaries of business law. In 1977, it created the LLC and has passed more than 30 pieces of crypto legislation to create a more favorable regulatory environment for businesses and investors since 2019.
It takes 3 to 5 days for someone to receive money. We have not been able to bridge that gap with traditional financial services. We have had private entrants in this industry that have issued stable tokens that are regulated, and now the state of Wyoming is looking to do this at the public sector to provide another avenue for people to make choices in how to move money today.
Okay, before we go, a reminder that we're awaiting the launch of World Liberty Financial, the DeFi project touted by the Trump family. We should hear more about that in a live stream this evening, and we'll bring you all the details tomorrow. We'll see you then.